Morning. All right, so on to week 11. Winfield secured their spot in the playoffs. They earned their way in by beating Riverside. They also got some additional points with, opponent points with Princeton, Nitro, Hoover, and then Shady Spring ended their season with a win, which gave Winfield an extra point. So that settles as far as Winfield being in the playoffs. Also, I think the playoff field, just my opinion, is pretty much set. But there is a slight, I guess, chance that John Marshall could jump Pikeview for the 16th spot. John Marshall plays Wheeling Park, Pikeview plays Buffalo. So if that were to, and of course I have, just to let you know, I have Pikeview winning, John Marshall losing. If that would happen in reverse, that's how that could be flipped, and that's how John Marshall could get in and Pikeview be left out. So, all right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to screen share so I can show you my rankings, my 1 through 16, and then we can see and kind of explain just a little bit of a breakdown, so we can see the possibility of some movement. So we can see how Winfield might get a different opponent than what my breakdown is right here. All right, so now I'm screen sharing. Like I said, what I'm going to do is I'll look at the top for a minute. I'll talk about the top four, and then I'll talk about the 12 on down, and then we'll jump in the middle, which the middle is where the most important thing as far as Winfield's concerned. So Bridgeport, Princeton. I have Bridgeport finishing first, 2 points ahead of Princeton. 17.6 to 17.4. It could go the other way. There is some wiggle room. I have Bridgeport having played a couple out-of-state opponents. I have both them winning. Princeton has a couple opponents I have losing. Could go the other way. I don't know what the odds are or likelihood. I mean, it could tie, I guess, but we'll see. Fairmont Senior is playing East Fairmont. I like them to win and be solid in that third. North Marion's playing Oak Hill. I like North Marion. I guess it depends on the opinion whether or not you think Oak Hill could beat North Marion. But so that would be fourth. Like I said, we're going to skip down to the bottom. We'll start with Capital Kaiser. Capital Kaiser is extremely close. I have Kaiser losing to Frankfort, undefeated AA Frankfort, who beat Hoover earlier. If Kaiser would happen to win, they would put them in the 10th spot and push everybody down, which includes Winfield. If Capital, of course, they play Riverside. Capital's lost 3 straight, but if they were to happen to lose, they still make the playoffs at 4 and 6. But they get down, they would be at the bottom. They would be 16, so they'd push everybody up 1 spot. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into that 5 through 11. We'll start with Nitro Greenbrier East. Nitro and Greenbrier East play a game this week. Greenbrier East is traveling to Nitro. I like Nitro in this one, but if that game were to be flipped, they literally would flip spots. Greenbrier East would move into the 5th spot, and then Nitro would move into the 8th spot. So let's move on to Spring Valley Hoover. I know that some people will say, how is it that Hoover's ahead of Spring Valley this week and would be behind Spring Valley next week, given that Hoover's going to win this week? They play a AA team in Weir that hasn't won a game. And that's because it's that last week's is all based on their average, and Spring Valley's season was over, but Spring Valley has 137.8 points to Hoover's 126.4 points. So in my opinion, that Hoover will not pick up enough points. And once you divide that number by 10, like you're dividing Spring Valley's by 10, because that's the number of games they play, they will finish slightly behind Spring Valley. I guess it's possible that that there is something in there that could have them jump over Spring Valley based on my projections on opponents. I guess we'll see. If anybody's really interested in that, you can send a message to me on X or something and ask me to show you a complete breakdown. I'd be happy to do that. But of course, if Greenbrier East beats Nitro, then that's 1 less point for Hoover, and that's even a further separation. All right, so Greenbrier East and Hoover, let's talk about that for a second, because how close that is. Can Greenbrier East jump Hoover? Well, it's just kind of the same thing in terms of I just might, based on my projections, I think I think that Greenbrier East has less wiggle room than Hoover does in terms of their opponent projections. So that's where that goes. Chapmanville is going to finish ninth. They're just right there in that mid, they're like a little island between these groups, so they're going to finish ninth. Winfield Elkins. All right, Winfield Elkins, they're as close as you can get without being tied. Both, I think, are going to win easily this week. And again, I'll say it kind of with the Greenbrier East Hoover thing. My projections are, I think Elkins' opponents are not. It's not like I'll say the same with Greenbrier East. It's not like I have them at max points, but relatively speaking, compared to Winfield, I just think that Elkins has less chance, even though it's so close. And I guess it comes down to perspective in terms like, who would you rather play? Would you rather have Elkins jump Winfield so then you can be the 11 playing, which would be Spring Valley, instead of the 10 playing Hoover? And of course, again, if there's movement there, although, again, I don't think there will be, but there could be. So I guess it's all about perspective. Who would you rather play? So, all right, so I guess that's it. That pretty much sums up everything. Again, if anybody wants me to show you like a further breakdown of, like, maybe you want to see what I have as far as Winfield and Elkins goes, I guess the one game in here that could kind of, maybe depending on help or hurt, depending on what you want, how your perspective is. I do have Nicholas County beating Ripley. And so if Ripley were to beat Nicholas County, that would add a point to Nitro, add a point to Hoover, add a point to Winfield. So we would separate Winfield a little bit more from Elkins. But that 1 point would have Hoover jump Spring Valley. So for whatever that's worth, I think that's the one game in my mind. I suppose in some ways, Oak Hill, North Marion, because then if Oak Hill beats North Marion, that drops North Marion and would most likely put Nitro above North Marion. And then that Oak Hill would be one extra point for a few other teams as well. And there's a lot of different ways to kind of look at this in terms of playing around with it. Again, if you're interested in wanting me to play around with stuff and just kind of if you have a scenario and you want me to try it, I'll try it. All right. So that's it. Like I said, I guess I'll find out with you come Friday night wherever everything goes. I guess I'll try to be kind of crunching numbers, but like the West Virginia Tailgate Central will probably have everything done before I do, because they get all the scores before I do. So that's it. All right. So we'll see you at the game on Friday.